Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel, y'all. We are back to talk about Lawmen Bass Reeves, episode 6, child, part 6. Okay, if you're new here, my name is Ashley, and this is My Sweet Perspective, where I give my perspective on all things entertainment related, namely scripted scripted TV shows. Okay. If that's your speed, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are growing the family. I have met the first goal of 500 subscribers, and now the next goal is for 1,000. I'm super stoked. And if you're new here, again, thank you for stopping by. But y'all, let's get right into this recap, honey. A lot was going on. This is probably one of the most thrilling episodes of the season so far, honey. A lot was going on. Let's get right into it. So we know from last week that Bass had this prisoner who he could relate to, right? This was a guy who could have been Bass, right? If Bass had made some other decisions. So as soon as we get to this encampment, we saw he was meted by, again, I don't know which one is Romulus and which one is Remus, but one of the Wolf brothers, right, that we met initially and I thought was a good guy in the beginning. I was wrong. And so we see let me get into him who he actually is. But he's now, of course, a Texas Ranger, and this is Pierce, okay? And so Bass is already, feeling some kind of way because we know that this man is the one who killed the young boy that was under Bass's care at the Seminole Nation, location where Bass had recovered all those things. And so he's ready to turn him over, and he's like, is he gonna get justice? Is he gonna get where he belongs? And Pierce is like, everybody who's with me gets what they deserve. And so Bass automatically doesn't feel right with it, and neither do I. It's a mess, and it's traumatizing, and we all know where it's gonna go. And again, in these moments, Pierce is really, as he always does, tries to reinforce the idea that he and Bass are one and the same. They're the same level of violent. They're the same level of killers, all the things. And so he's talking about his own plantation where they have bones as big as giants and they're monsters, and that, you deserve to come, that you got to come visit me, is what he says as they're departing. But also in this exchange, he talks about the prisoner and what he actually did. And he says, he dragged this man, he did all these things, and Bass is like, and he also told me what the guy did to him. So anyway, Bass reluctantly leaves as he sees Pierce with the Wolf brother, with the Wolf man. And it's just a really bad exchange. And so he's already in a place. Bass, again, as he's saying goodbye to Cole, who was the prisoner from before, is like, you're in my prayers. And he was like, look, don't make him walk. Here, Billy, come bring a donkey or bring a mule so he can ride. And he's like, oh, he won't be walking the whole way. And I'm like, this is just so bad. And again, Bass's mind is starting to think, right? And remember, one of our captives from a couple episodes in Mr. Sundown. You got to think about that throughout this entire thing. By the way, this is spoiler filled. So if you haven't watched the episode, go watch the episode and then come back. So Bass already hot. As they're going home, they decide to stop by the Seminole Nation because they're right in the area, and they stop by Sarah's house. Now, you remember Sarah was the woman that took Bass in but lost her son. And I knew after that point she wasn't going to be much longer for the earth because she was tired. She had lost her husband. She had lost her son. Those were the only two people really that she had to live for. And so, Billy's like, something don't feel right. Something don't smell right over here. Something don't feel right. Bass goes in the house and he goes out and he sees a casket that's still above ground, and he's like, go on, Billy, right ahead. And it's like, we're really seeing Bass try to deal with the grief in that moment, but still not fully. So they get back to town, and Bass is like, let me go ahead and get my money. He gets his money, and he's like, you're $50 short. And she's like, no, I'm not. They said you delivered the boots. And he was like, the boots? He was like, I delivered a whole person there. He was like, no, Marshall Pierce said that you delivered the boots. And he was like, yeah, no. That's not what happened. So anyway, Bass decides he's going to go to the bar the night, and he gets absolutely toe up, honey. He gets toe up from the flow up. He drank a whole bottle of whiskey, and now he's looking for a fight because he got to get this off. And for whatever reason, Bass likes hitting white men. Okay, it's just a thing. That's probably where Sally gets it. She probably gets it from her daddy. She gets it honest. And so this guy is, and they're kind of talking loud, but not really obnoxious, but Bass bumps into him. And it's like, oh my Lord, And so he's trying to start a fight with Bass, or Bass is trying to start a fight with him. And then he's like, you can do this, you sure? But, I got this badge. And Bass was like, I got this badge too. And he's like, you're our Mr. Bass Reeves. And this is Braxton Sawyer, who's another U.S. Marshal, but down in Texas. And immediately I'm like, he's going to be Bass's best friend. I know I was wrong initially about Pierce, but I think about Braxton Sawyer, I got this right. So, they sit down and they actually have some drinks together. And Bass can't even be mad at him. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, in this bar, we saw that Bass was being looked at crazy by a couple of people, okay? A woman of color and her little entourage. So when he leaves to go relieve himself, honey, they jump him in the alley. And it's a total wrap. They get the best of him initially, but then Bass come back because Bass ain't no punk, okay? He's gonna fight. And so he fights, but he still doesn't have everything he needs. And so then the woman comes. We know that there's a bounty on Bass's head. And we know that there can be all kinds of bounties, right? Not just issued by the law, but by criminals, of course. People who just want to get rid of somebody. And so they're like, the bounty doesn't say he's got to be alive. And so she decides they're going to play Russian roulette, honey. She takes all the bullets out and just to torture him. And it was like, sis, what is your problem with him? And so it just in the nick of time, Billy had gotten some cootenanny from Callista. But he hears the uproar and he goes down and he actually shoots at one of them and he gets him. And Bass says, that's how you aim, Billy Crow. That's how you aim. And it was like in that moment, he was actually proud of Billy, which was kind of a thing. And so now they're on the mission to kind of get these people back. And so they make kind of quick work of them, honestly. We know Bass is the best at tracking and hunting down somebody. But I'm still interested to see what goes on. Meanwhile, back at home with the family, we see Arthur meets with Sally. Arthur's all beat up from the altercation with the boys from the fair, from the carnival. And he's like, I got to get out of town. He's like, but I want you to come with me. And she's like, Reeves don't run. And I'm like, Sally, stop it. Sally's ridiculous. And I hope she don't get somebody taken out. I was relieved we didn't have to see Arthur hanging or swinging from somewhere this episode, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's coming because the little boys are now kind of torturing her. And we see on the previews for the next couple episodes what's going to happen. But so he basically says his goodbye. He's like, he'll meet her in Paris one day. You know what I mean? He'll be there waiting for her. Meanwhile, we see Edwin and Esme. Edwin, I don't trust him. And I don't really trust Esme either, but we know this is Jenny's friend from back in slavery days. And she invites him over. And of course, Bass comes in during dinner. And Bass is already in a mood. But plus, he don't like him. And like I said, Edwin can't be trusted. I trust my intuition, y'all. I trust it. I trust my spirit. It's never failed me, okay? And so he's giving him the blues. He's like, I see you got a ring on. Where's your wife? They make sacrifices. And he's like, nah, because I had a feeling Edwin and Esme was doing the thing anyway. During the conversation, he's touting, Black people need their own community. We need to protect each other. And while I agree with all the things that he said, there is just something so disingenuous about him. He seems like a flim-flammer. I just do not trust him at all. And neither does Bass. And so during the conversation, Jenny gets wise and she's like, you want to use my husband as a poster boy. And we're not having it. I'll show you to the door. So he hurry up and got him out. Now that night in bed, as they're winding down, she's like, Jenny is talking to Bass and she's like, where's my husband? Every time you come back, there's less and less of you. And the look in his eye, it was dark. It was dark, y'all. And so then we wake up, we got to go back in town. And I probably misspoke. He doesn't find out about coal not being delivered, but just the boots until the next day when he goes back in town to get his money. But while he's there, he bumps into the guy the Black prisoner who he had that took that man's face off, which was crazy as heck. And Bass is like, as he's being walked to the gallows, the other guy, Bass, is like, who is Mr. Sundown? And so the guy's not answering him. He's just kind of like, whatever, Bass. So they get walked up there and we see the two guys that Bass got from their mama's house. And then we see him, and just before he's about to swing, the guy is like, 5 peso. In that moment, it's like Bass flashes back and we find out that we remember that Pierce had said that his badge was made from 5 peso. And so he's like, that's Mr. Sundown. And that's where all the Black men are disappearing to. There's been Black men all across the territory who were just randomly disappearing. And now we know that it's Pierce. Now, when Bass gets home, he's starting to have visions of Pierce. And Pierce is basically saying, we're one and the same. We're both killers. Maybe I'm in heaven and you're not. because he weighed your soul and it was found wanting. And we know that's scripture, that's a Bible. Again, just kind of appealing to Bass's faith. It's very interesting, and I am going to do another video to talk about Remus and Romulus and what that looks like in lore, right, in mythology, and really see how the show is how the show is in comparison to that, because again, it's definitely an interesting story or subtext that we see kind of woven, or subplot that we're seeing woven within the actual story. Again, a great episode. I just hope Arthur got free. That's my hope for next episode. We know they're going to come with the clan and it's going to be a mess, y'all, but anyway, those were my thoughts. That was the review, the recap of Lawmen, Bass, Reeves, episode 6. There are going to be 8 episodes this season, so we have 2 more weeks, and I'm so stoked, and I hope we get another season, child, because Bass was the Lawman for several years, so I think we can ride this out a little bit longer. But anyway, if you're still here, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye, guys.